Hello, once again, YouTube. Kingpin of Cinema here with QB999, and I recently rehired the Joe on camera.
I was gonna sue.
And I got no money. So,
we're here with another game review this time, as opposed to a movie review.
Yeah, we're gonna switch things up. And, this is a game review I'm not happy with.
I don't think many people are happy about it. It's the fun times adventure of Final Fantasy XIII.
Fun times is being a key word here, because none of that's to be had in this game.
And strangely enough, Final Fantasy is too, because it's not Final Fantasy.
Well, okay, so let's just spend a few minutes here talking about...
By the way, because of how crappy the game is, I don't think we'll worry about spoilers, because there really are none.
Yeah, so we're going to spoil the fuck out of this, but then again, since the game is so convoluted, you're probably not going to understand what any of it is anyways.
And the story is just very linear, and it stays the same, so once we tell you what happens at the beginning, you know the story from beginning to end.
But right now, I just want to spend just a couple of minutes just talking about outlining what's good about this game.
So we're going to start with the shortest list of what's good.
For me personally, there are some of the characters I did like. I did like the combat system. The combat system is very, very well done, very streamlined. Could have used a few improvements, mostly due to the fact that there's a lot of classes, and I think some of them could have been combined in the two, because you won't end up using them for 3/4 of the game. You can use them, but...
There's a few core jobs that you're just going to stick with for most of the time.
Yeah, and the voice acting is greatly improved. If you didn't like the voice acting in 10 and 12, chances are...
the lips are actually in sync with what they say.
Yeah, it's actually in sync. Some voices are pretty fucking annoying, and there's some that do fit the character, and they're done very, very well. The graphics are impressive.
They're actually in 1080p graphics.
For the PS3, we've got to make this distinction here. I played it on the 360 version, so it's not 1080p, and the graphic resolution isn't quite there.
But it's not that noticeable unless you get a microscope and look it over.
Yeah, because when I was watching you play it on your PS3, I really didn't notice much of a difference. Maybe in the cutscenes there's a huge difference.
Between the two systems, there's really no big differences. Load times are the same.
Yeah.
It's just your personal preference.
So they did a pretty good port. So there is that about it. They had a good port.
Although, should this game have been on the 360? I don't care.
Yeah, there was a huge debate about people saying whether or not this should have been on the 360. Yes, it should have been, but anyhow, moving on. The graphics, they're very bright, it's very colorful, and it does look good. Now, that's about all I have to say that's positive about this game.
As for me, it's pretty much the same. There was only really one character I liked, and that was Saz. And even then, I only liked him because he seemed the most normal. I mean, him and Fane were the only real likable characters, although they didn't have much of a personality for themselves.
Yeah, that's the big thing to go towards, is... The direction to take this conversation is that the characters are not well-rounded at all. Everyone is very one-dimensional.
Everyone's a classic anime cliche. You got the tough bitch who doesn't really care about anyone, but eventually learns to love.
Except that we got two of those.
And then, of course, you got the overdramatic hero who just wants to save everyone, and he can do it all by himself.
We got the 16-year-old girl that we have to sexualize.
And then, of course, you got the whiny little bitch boy who wants to do something but can't because he doesn't believe himself enough. But he eventually learns that he's strong just the way he is.
And he's basically the character where you get all the life lessons from. Yeah, we get that, which we don't need.
Saz is the comic relief. He's a decent... He's the only character who actually has a decent backstory for me.
Is it fair to say he's comic relief? Because he really doesn't do a whole lot of comic relief. He seems like the most human character out of all of them. Because everyone is essentially a anime personality. If you watch a lot of anime, you're basically going to see those kind of character types.
Yeah.
Except for Zaz, who seems like the most human character.
And as for Fane, she's just not given that much of a personality that I can really put my finger on.
You kind of get the idea that she's like kind of like the tough bitch that will kick your ass.
She's kind of like Snow, where he wants to protect everyone. She's just interested in protecting her one friend. That's the only thing I could really get from her. And she would do that at any cost.
And her and her one friend have lesbian undertones.
So you have lesbians and pedophilia on here.
And by undertones, I mean a half a brick to the skulls. That's about how subtle it is. And
so, in short, the characters are not very likable.
They're not very memorable, and that's something to say about Final Fantasy. When one of the major staples of that series is having very memorable, very likable characters.
There's always at least one person you can relate to, and this one there's not. At least not for us.
Yeah, not for us. Saz came the closest, but in the end,
still kind of a miss.
All the characters were a major miss, and I
just didn't care about them.
They're utterly forgettable. They really are. Then you have the main villain, and he's okay.
He shows up, he'll fight you and leave, and that's kind of it.
His whole plan is essentially the main villain plan in Bayonetta. Essentially, I'm going to destroy the world so I can bring some mythical goddess back to bring in a whole new era of creationism.
Alright.
Why? Well, because he had to do something.
We have plenty more to talk about, but we're going to cut this video into part 2 and start go into a little bit more about the story.
Yeah, we're gonna tackle the beast that is the story of
or at least
Final Fantasy XIII. We're going to attempt. So tune in and hopefully you'll enjoy it.